Shri Anandamayi Mat ki Jai. It was a rainy day in July 1949. At that time, I was staying at Rajghat school at a distance of nearly 5 miles from the ashram. Nevertheless, whenever Mataji was at Varanasi, I used to go to the ashram every evening almost without exception. But on that muddy day, I had given up all hope of getting to Mataji. It had poured with rain for many hours, and the sky was still overcast with heavy black clouds. To venture out would have meant wading through mud and rain puddles for half a mile before I could get a convenience. If at all, a rickshaw-man could be persuaded to take me such a distance, and even then there was every probability of arriving at the ashram drenched to the skin and splashed with mud. But lo and behold, a visitor who lived in the ashram lane turned up in her car. Mataji is very gracious, I thought. When I have no chance to get to her, a car comes along. Without difficulty, I got a lift. When we passed through the chalk, the owner of the car stopped to make purchases. I availed myself of this opportunity to buy a garland. There was only one flower seller to be seen, and what he had was not at all to my taste. But in spite of this, something made me buy a garland. At the ashram, I found Mataji seated in her usual place in the hall with only a few ashramites sitting on either side of her. No one had ventured out into the pouring rain. As a rule, Mataji receives lots of garlands, but on this occasion, no one had brought even a single flower. I felt very apologetic because of my shabby garland. However, I offered it and was going to sit down in my usual place when Mataji made signs to me to get out of the way. Surprised, I turned around. Exactly opposite to Mataji, at the west end of the hall, I saw an emaciated old lady lying on her bedding that had been spread on the floor. She was very ill and had shifted to the ashram a few weeks ago, as she wished to die in Mataji's presence and in sight of the Ganga. It was obvious that her last hour had come. Her son was sitting close by her, chanting holy texts, while her daughter was attending to her. The dying woman had her rosary in her hand. She was hardly breathing, but evidently fully conscious. Mataji was watching her intently. Off and on, she would say with a loud voice, "Mother, are you doing japa?" The old lady could respond only by almost imperceptible gestures. Her daughter confirmed, yes, she was doing japa and listening to her son's chanting. Mataji suggested sprinkling some Ganga water on her chest, and a few drops of sacred liquid were instilled into her mouth with the help of a piece of cotton wool, since she was too weak to drink. Not for a moment did Mataji let her eyes off her. I was reminded of the sight of an eagle watching its prey from the air, ready to swoop down on it at the right moment. Suddenly, Mataji left her seat and walked straight to the dying woman. With great motherly affection, she gazed at her, placed the garland on her chest, and then, with a swift and determined gesture, passed both her hands over the shriveled body from head to foot. The end had come. It was unforgettable, a most impressive moment. I thought to myself, surely this is not death, this is liberation. Call the girls to sing kirtan, said Mataji. The brahmacharinis of the Kanyapit came and sang, some of them children of 9 or 10. What a beautiful idea is to make children face death in this atmosphere of peace and serenity. Everyone felt moved. But there was no weeping, no regret. On the contrary, there was a hush, a sense of quiet, pervading joy of fulfillment. Death means changing one's apparel. One can often hear Mataji say. The kirtan continued for a little while. Then the body was taken down to the ghat. Some Ganga water was poured over the spot where the old lady had breathed her last, and an oil lamp placed there. Everyone left the hall. Fortunate is he who ends his days in this manner. Shri Anandamayi Mat ki Jai.